Leon Kennedy, Raccoon City, Mr. X, Lickers, Hunk, the RPD. A game designed to milk nostalgia and evoke fun memories of your favorite Resident Evil games. I am, of course, referring to Operation Raccoon City. Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it? Resident Evil Requiem, a game that sold over 5 million copies in 5 days, has been universally praised as one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. Contains so many overlapping elements with ORC, a game that came out 14 years ago to in less than charitable reception. So, what's the difference? Besides your ability to parry a car, how did Capcom get it so right with Requiem, but so wrong with ORC? To answer that question, we're going to need to dive back into Operation Raccoon City and discover where everything went so wrong for the Wolfpack. Right out of the gates, you're asked to choose a character, your loadout, and your skills for your insertion into Raccoon City. Yep, if you've never played this gem of the 7th generation, ORC is a squad-based shooter, clearly looking to capitalize on the success of similar games of that generation like Gears of War or Left 4 Dead. You play a member of the Umbrella Special Forces team Wolfpack, tasked with cleaning up the mess of the outbreak in Raccoon City. Hiding Umbrella's involvement, though I do feel like a city full of zombies is a pretty big smoking gun, and be generally evil because, hey, sometimes it's good to be bad. Right off the rip, the game wastes no time mining your love of nostalgia, having Wolfpack rendezvous with the ghost himself, Hunk, for a secret mission to take out William Birkin, and steps the G-Bars before he has a chance to do anything stupid with it. Almost immediately, you'll start running into a detachment of Umbrella's Biohazard Countermeasure Service, who are just there to protect Willie B. Meaning that our first enemy that we encounter as an Umbrella unit is another Umbrella unit. This weird detail is hand-waved in the opening cutscene, but I just find it funny that even the game's own characters were confused by the logic of it. If you're building a game whose core combat loop is being a stop-and-pop shooter, your combat needs to be pretty damn airtight. And you know what? Slant 6 Games, the studio behind ORC, kinda nailed that aspect. Even in 2012, when people were beginning to roll their eyes the moment they spotted a chest-high wall, the game controls shockingly well. Shooting is smooth and tight.
Nice.
And if this is your first time playing the game, you might already be thinking that you're in for a damn good time. The game will cue you of that misconception pretty quickly. Things here pretty smoothly right until we reach our first canon event, where William infects himself with a G-Virus after getting fed a lead salad. And we're on to our first chase section, with Dr. Willie chasing us down, and the Hail Spud trying to buy us enough time to escape. It's fine, nothing crazy. Just run like hell and dodge the obstacles.
Run!
But it does bring our first real issue into frame. Ammunition. ORC is a little weird. It's a third-person shooter, and a pretty short one at that. Your first playthrough will run you 3 to 5 hours at most. But, like Left 4 Dead, it's made to be replayed. Complete missions earns you points for unlocking new perks, and most importantly, new weapons. New weapons have different stats, and you can even pay real money in the shop to purchase DLC exclusives. The problem is, you just run out of ammo really quickly. Whether you're mowing down hordes of the undead or dumping mags into Mr. X, you'll find you exhaust your ammunition supply pretty quickly. Now, the game does give you ammunition crates and boxes at pretty regular intervals. But if you ever find yourself reduced to harsh language, your only option is going to be to fall back in your backup pistol. Harsh language might actually have more stunning power. And waste the next crate to pop up, or swap out for a different weapon that was either dropped by your enemies or plucked from weapon crate. The downside here is that there is no way to get back your favorite weapon once you've left it behind. Doors left behind you with alarming regularity, preventing backtracking. And after that, you're stuck with what will probably be a substandard weapon for the rest of the mission. This could have been solved by giving the player more than one primary weapon and one backup weapon, but for whatever reason, you're locked to only 2 options for the entire mission. It's annoying, and makes the combat feel more simplistic than it needs to be. Spend the rest of the mission running your ass away from the top G, and you'll be treated to a cutscene where Hunk once again illustrates why he's an absolute badass in ditching the Wolfpack to go recover the G-Virus sample by himself. It's a nice lead into the Forced Survivor campaign in Resident Evil 2, but it's the loss we'll see of him here. Why? Level complete! Each mission in RRC is self-contained for the most part, featuring little specific objectives. Each mission starts with a little briefing you get from the Umbrella Command, which doesn't add up to much more than a cat-cut hype reel. This time around, we've been assigned a simple sweep and clear, hunting down anyone the zombies haven't chad down on yet, and torching any evidence that people could lay their sticky fingers on. We run to UBCS Commander Nikolai, who seems like a pretty stand-up, nice guy we probably won't regret shooting later one bit.
Their worst nightmare was about to manifest in ways they could never predict.
We hit tasked with blowing up a server room, and you know what that means. Mowing down wave after wave of the undead between you and your objective. It's around this time you'll start to realize that as good as the controls feel, the core gameplay loop is not really all that satisfying. It's not bad by any stretch, but at the same time, it doesn't really ever shine either. Every gun feels remarkably similar to the next, a fact which isn't aided by the zombies never really showing any reaction to being shot, besides flinching a little bit and eventually falling over. Blow up the servers, fight off a few more waves of faceless UBCS troops, and you'll be tasked with torching more evidence in a very dark archive room. It's annoying, boring, and really just exists to drag a few extra minutes from the painfully short campaign. After that, we finally introduced to the liquor enemies. Normally, liquors would be an enemy which is exceptionally dangerous. One you need to exploit their weakness of being blind to either sneak past them or look for an ideal avenue to get a stealth kill. Here, no. Just hose them down and move on because this game ain't gonna play itself. Fight your way out of there and congrats, mission complete. I did notice something curious here in my playthrough though. That completing the level didn't require me to have the rest of my team present or fulfill any objectives. I just had to hit a trigger and clear the level. That's something I'm gonna circle back on later. But for now, we've been lumped with the objective of knocking out Raccoon City's power grid, because the only way life in Raccoon City can get any worse at this point is if you're getting eaten by zombies in the dark. But before you get a chance to do anything, Nikolai pops up to remind us that he's an asshole, and the best way he can illustrate that is by releasing more hordes of zombies. But some of the zombies have bombs stuck in their head. Look, we gotta take the little wins where we can get them. Get through that, Nikolai will really make you regret not Minecrafting him earlier by shooting down your ride to the power plant, purely for an opportunity to ore farm. From here, everything is on fire thanks to that crashed chopper. But it's all just window dressing and doesn't really affect the gameplay in any meaningful way. Fight your way through the streets and you'll eventually get forced into a showdown with Nikolai. It's nothing particularly challenging. He just spends his time alternating from window to window, trying to dodge all the grenades I keep lobbing in there. Taking him to Palantown will clear the way to the power station proper, where you'll be locked in there with, you guessed it, endless waves of zombies until you complete your objective. Step up and claim your prize. We have containers full of unsold copies of this game. Drop 3 EMPs and we're back to the mission select screen with a pat on the back from command. At this point in the story, Nemi has gone rogue, so before he can develop a fascination with stars, we need to locate a parasite we can jab at his head to fix what ails him. That involves fighting our way through the streets of a Spec Ops ambush and more hordes of the undead before we enter a Umbrella secret laboratory. It's here that we encounter our first run-in with Mr. X. And given how he's bereft of a control parasite, he's not really happy to see us. Though, remember how earlier I mentioned that completing missions in this game isn't really dependent on contingencies like your team being alive or clearing out a zombie infestation? This is around the point that I decided to start exploiting that fact. Yet, I'm not sticking you around to fight a tyrant if I can afford it, so this is the moment I decided to start speedrunning the game by avoiding confrontation wherever I can. Which, if your player is trying to avoid the one thing the game is built around, the shooting, I would argue is a concerning sign if you're the developer. Escape the lab, it's time for your showdown with Nemi. Oh boy, this is it. Our first encounter with the legendary nemesis of Resident Evil. And it's another horde mode where you just have to stay alive long enough to jab him in the head with a needle. You've got one of the most legendary antagonists in gaming at your disposal. And your answer is a wave fight. ORC, I want to love you, but you are making this deeply challenging. Do enough damage to Nemi and he remembers which team he's played for. Just in time to say the line.
Say the line, Bart!
Dark!
Yeah!
Before we cut to black and put a bow on Mission 3. Mission 4 opens with a trip to the RPD. We are charged with destroying evidence the Chief has been accruing regarding his under-the-table dealings with Umbrella. Weirdly, you accomplish this objective right away, and you get treated to a very short tour of the RPD before Leon and Claire decide to make themselves a problem that the Wolfpack is charged with solving. Yeah, Command has decided that Mr. Kennedy and Miss Redfield need to be eliminated because... reasons. So we're chasing them through the streets of Raccoon City while our bosses go increasingly frustrated at Wolfpack's inability to deal with their unreasonable requests. This comes to a head with the team being cut loose from their corporate overlords. Left for dead, get it, as Umbrella have decided to take matters into their own hands. Get into a fight with a couple of tyrants, which is just the absolute worst, given how they're massive bullet sponges and are almost impossible to dodge. And you'll close out the mission with Wolfpack realizing they are all alone without a chance of rescue, forced to fend for themselves as, just kidding. Mission 5 opens with Wolfpack literally begging for their jobs back, telling Command they're just gonna keep killing legions of very expensive BRWs until they get rehired. Umbrella Command, apparently impressed by their complete lack of respect for company resources, tell them they're back on the payroll with one condition. Take out Leon, Claire, and Ada, who are busy cavorting around Umbrella's underground facility like they own the place. And you know what that means. Wave upon wave of zombies, lickers, and everything in between. By this point, I checked out mentally, and I'm just running from objective to objectives, ignoring almost everything in between. Also, Mr. X is still alive, so we can treat to a little bus battle that just boils down to shooting the glowing weak point for massive damage? Honestly, I am not even sure we're accomplishing anything at this point, so just stop questioning things and move along. With him out of the way, it's time for the big climax. The final mission opens with a priority message to stuff Leon in a box, and Command is not letting us leave until we dare. From here, the game knows its only chance of you not being it before lunchtime is to just throw everything it has at you. The waves of enemies and special infected are constant at this point, which would be a problem if... yeah, you can still run past them. No, I'm serious. Do not waste your time fighting them. The game has more bodies to throw at you than you have bullets. That is until the final section where you need to breach a UBCS blockade. I was stuck on this part for ages, dying repeatedly to the endlessly spawning Crimson Heads and UBCS soldiers who will absolutely perforate you if you make any attempt to rush their position. This leaves you stuck between a rock and a hard place. Slow roll it, and you'll be fighting off hundreds of zombies with diminishing resources as you try to make a glacial crawl towards the true position. Or speedrun and get shot to pieces repeatedly because you're running headlong into an enemy that's in a entrenched position. The solution? Grenades. Toss two as you get in sight of the UBCS soldiers. And if you're lucky, you'll breach the barricades, giving the zombies an alternative source of protein for them to snack on. From there, we go back to our standard strategy of rushing the objective to trigger the next area to load. From here, you'll be presented with a choice. With Leon and Claire cornered by the wolf pack, you can either stay on mission and move in for the kill, or decide to throw your lot in with the good guys, believing you'll just be screwed by your overlords again if you remain faithful to the people who hung you out to dry once already. From here, Wolfpack is split in two, with Lupin and Victor remaining faithful to Umbrella, while Bertha and Spectre defect to help Leon. From here, your former teammates suddenly become a lot more capable. Mr. Kennedy himself also decides to become a problem, lobbing grenades and firing shots from his handgun that delete a quarter of your health bar at a time. Sometimes the only way to win is not to play. I embrace this maxim by taking a sniper rifle to the back of the level and cheesing Leon to death because if he's not gonna play fair, then neither am I. From here, we get what is arguably the highlight of the whole game, where you get to see Leon laying dead at your feet, with Claire begging for her life before she presumably follows him, with the scene getting cut short as we fade to black. It is gleefully dark and utterly bizarre that Capcom would allow 2 stars of their biggest franchise just to get Minecrafted like this. So, how did a game like Operation Raccoon City fail so badly when Requiem shares so many similar themes but succeeds brilliantly? Simple. Talent. Slant 6 might have known how to make a military shooter, but a survival horror game? They were clearly out of their depth, and it shows. Though, I might be a little bit too harsh there, as the game has well-documented issues with having a very short development cycle that led to a love crunch to get at the door on time. If what has been documented about that timeline is true, then at the very least, the issues with the game's lack of variety and being criminally short might have been alleviated. But even bearing that in mind, it's a little hard to give Slant 6 a pass when the core mechanic of shooting just feels so boring. Satisfying combat can go a long way to carrying a game like this, and I'd be much happy to let them off the hook for the game's shortcomings if this area alone had been a lot more rewarding. But sadly, that isn't the case. But what do you think of Operation Raccoon City? Am I treating it too harshly? Or did it deserve the fate it received and much worse? Let me know in the comments, so I'll give you my thoughts in turn. Until then, look after yourselves and each other.